goes from the green on top and gets knocked down to red. Those signals, by the way, were made by a young man in Canada who started a company called Scale Models Division, and he actually made them specifically for the Geneva Subdivision to match the signals that guard the Mississippi River Bridge. Here's a look at the actual signals. And as I said, I sent him the pictures and he built them to match the prototype signals. He eventually got a job with a Canadian railroad, I think maybe Via, I can't remember exactly, but anyway, he's no longer in business building signals. But I did get quite a few signals from him. So this is train MNPPR. It's a manifest train from North Platte, Nebraska, heading to Proviso, Illinois. And here we see it going through Franklin Grove. It's already been through Clinton, across the Mississippi River, and then into Northern Illinois, Franklin Grove, heading now towards Rochelle. And it has switching to do in Rochelle at the interchange track. So here we can see it taking the crossover to go from track 1 to track 2, since the interchange track in Rochelle connects to track 2. This is episode 20 of season 2019. Here we see it going through Global 3. The lead locomotive there is a Scale Trains Tier 4 locomotive. And we're slowly coming to a stop. One thing I really like about the Scale Trains is that the ditch lights are separate control from the headlight. So it gives some more interesting prototypical operation that you can throw in. Okay, we've come to a stop. And now we're having to switch the interchange yard. You can see there the 4 or 5 cars that we're going to be picking up. And since the turnout is facing the train, the locomotives will need to do a runaround. This episode is on the BNSF switcher in Rochelle. Most, if not all, the industries in Rochelle are located on the BNSF main line. And so in order for the Union Pacific to access those industries, they make use of the interchange track between the BNSF and Union Pacific. So this video is basically one half of a normal day's operation on the BNSF switcher. And in my opinion, this is probably one of the most entertaining jobs to do if you are ever operating on the layout. Definitely a lot of, if you like switching, this is definitely the one that I think you would enjoy the most. So what we have here, before I get too much into what's going on, want to invite everybody to make sure you watch to the end of the video, because at the end I'm going to have some footage of the actual prototype BNSF switcher operating in Rochelle, so you can kind of see a little bit of the real thing and see what I need to add to the layout when you see the difference. So what we're looking at here is some tank cars and one reefer car for probably 2 to 3 times what their price was when they first came out. Right, my arms blocking the view of the intermodal train. All right, and I think we need just one of these rail box cars. And of course, it's not the first one, it's the second one, so we'll have to put the other one back. As you notice on the intermodal cars, I do have the containers fairly mixed up and not all blocked together. That definitely does look a lot better. I'm glad somebody mentioned that in the comments. Decided to do another operations video. I was going to do an update on the intermodal yard, but thought, well, it might be better to do an operations video and get a chance to show some of the new things on the Global 3, some of the updates there, and also show another operations video, which seems to be, pretty popular. One thing that you might notice is a little bit different about this video is I do have the throttle screen, so you can kind of follow along on the throttle work that's being done as we operate these trains. This is the screen that's on my smartphone. This is not my phone that I use every day. It's just a phone that has a cracked screen, but I use it for slowing down as it approaches Global 3. You can kind of see part of the yard here. And as you can see, it's crossing over from track 1 to track 2. And then to get into the Global 3 yard, it's crossing over again from track 2 onto the yard lead of the intermodal yard at Global 3. We have a train waiting, an auto rack. Had to stop for the intermodal train. There are 4 classification tracks at Global 3. The train is going into classification track 1. It's, I guess you could also say, the arrival departure track, but it can also be used as a classification track. So there's 4 classification tracks, and then there's 2 additional tracks for loading and dropping off 2 cars. Now, since we're in the yard here, the auto racks can continue on their westward trek. Looks like we're going to have a little bit of a race here to start off with. One of the things I really want to do next on the intermodal yard here is get the check-in booth under the kind of like pavilion thing. Put in the details of the computer screens, and there's like some posts that need to go in, some yellow posts to protect. Alright, so it's pulling the cars all the way through that crossover again. And then it's going to back those cars into the cars that have already been set there on departure track 2. As we're doing that, we'll be able to watch a coal train come through. You don't see as many coal trains going through Rochelle as you used to. They've changed a lot of the coal-fired power plants to natural gas. So not as many. When we lived there, there was probably a third of the trains were coal trains. It used to be, when we lived there also, you would have up to 100 trains a day going through Rochelle. I think with the absence of the coal trains, you do still get them through Rochelle. They're not completely gone, but definitely not near the numbers that they used to be. So last I heard, the number of trains through Rochelle is down to 60 to 70 trains a day. Now, still quite a lot, but not like it used to be. So that one is much more authentic. And on all the Metro trains, the locomotives all face in the same direction no matter what direction the train's going. So I think they are all facing away from Chicago. If I'm wrong, then I have them both wrong, but I think they're all facing away from Chicago. So when they go back towards Chicago, they go back in the other direction. And they basically push the train. So we'll go ahead and pull those out and put those on departure track 2. All right, here you can see the commuter car being used as a conductor booth with ditch lights and headlights. That looks pretty cool. As you can see here also, I try to keep things This is an operations video on the Global 3 yard crew, which has some swapping out of cars to do within the Global 3 intermodal facilities. Basically, we're moving cars from the load and unload tracks to the classification tracks. As you can see, the check-in, check-out booths are there with their added details. Movement or exclusive contract with JB Hunt. So all the JB Hunt containers are on BNSF trains, and you won't find them anywhere in Global 3, but I have them. I'm looking for. All right, as we're working the yard here, you can see a manifest train pulling through. And since we set out the containers from the load unload area into track 4, we have 4 sets of cars that we're going to be pulling from the classification track, and we're going to be putting them into the load unload tracks. So we have one set of 3 here that we're picking from track 3, and then I think the other set of 3 is in track 2. We'll space them out. Whereas if it's between, if it's on the pavement dividing 2 areas of pavement, they have them right next to each other. Here you see an intermodal train going by. Let's see if those containers are mixed up or not, or if they're still blocked. So the first set are kind of mixed up. Second set looks like it's all EMP that's blocked together. Sorry about that. Second set is all APL. That's still blocked. I guess I didn't do as well as I thought I had. This next one has Hub Group and EMP. They're all green, but they are different. And then that next set is definitely mixed up, and I think the rest of it's pretty much a mixture. So moved quite a bit of them around to kind of get the idea that they're not all blocked, but still having some blocked, because you do see them blocked from time to time. The first 2 locomotives were former Southern Pacific or Cotton Belt locomotives. These are Union Pacific locomotives. And we're going to work this side just to add some variety, but also because the ones that we're setting from the classification tracks into this area is actually on this side of the yard, so it just works out better. When we have an operating session, we usually have at least 2 people working Global 3, sometimes just 1, but if we have 2, this can be done much more efficiently with one person doing one end of the yard and one person doing the other end, and they can of course work at the same time. They of course have to communicate with each other and make sure that they're coordinated in their movements. On the actual Global 3 in Rochelle, the yard engines are actually remote control units, so there's somebody in a tower somewhere that's running the locomotives from the tower. And I've ridden my bike